Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We're learning Mishna Kesubos, Perek Aleph, Chapter 11, Mishnah Hey, Mishnah 5. Now, until now, we were talking about how a woman takes a property from her husband's estate and sells it either for her support or for payment of her ksuba. And there are times where the Beis Din, the court itself, does the sale. We had a discussion before. They have to ask permission from the court or not ask permission from the court. But here we're going to talk about where the court itself is the one that sells the property of the deceased husband on behalf of the widow, either for her support or for her ksuba. And therefore the Mishnah says like this, Shema Dayanim, the appraisal of property done by the judges, Shapichasu Shtus, and they actually devalued it by a sixth, or Haysifu Shtus, or they overvalued it by a sixth. So, for instance, the land was worth 600 zuz, and they sold it either for 500, 100 less, which is 1/6 of the actual price, or 700 zuz, which is 1/6 of the original price more. So this is what they did. They either devalued it by a sixth or overvalued it by a sixth. Mechron batal. The sale is null. It doesn't work. It does not count. Now, there's something very important here that now, why wouldn't it count? Because if they, let's say, undervalued it, then that means that's a loss for the heirs, if they undervalue it, because that means she can go and collect more from them. If it comes out that they overcharged, they overvalued it, then the buyer loses out. The buyer was cheated. So at the end of the day, either way, since somebody's going to lose either way, we say that what the sale that the Beis Din did with that mistaken appraisal is null. Now, it is important to know of the following halacha, and the Mishnah here talks about the number they use is if, let's say, they undervalued by a sixth or overvalued by a sixth. Now, let me read you here from the notes. Normally, meaning not when a Beis Din is involved, when two people are involved in a sale, when something is mistakenly sold for too much or too little, the sale is void only if the mistake is more than a sixth. More than a sixth. If the mistake is more than a sixth, there was an overcharge of more than a sixth of what it should have been, then we say that the sale is void. If the mistake is a sixth or less, the sale stands. That's the rule. If it's less than a sixth, then the sale still stands. Furthermore, when land is sold, the sale stands even if the price is off by more than a sixth. That's the halacha by land. Even if it's more than a sixth, the sale stands. These laws, however, do not apply when a court sells property owned by orphans, by heirs. In that case, even if the price is off by only a sixth, the sale is void. If the price is a sixth or less than what it should be, right. If the price is a sixth, actually, even the price is off by only a sixth, the sale is void. If the price is a sixth less, I'm sorry, I read it wrong. If the price is a sixth less than what it should be, the sale is void because the orphans lose. And if the price is a sixth more than what it should be, the sale is void because the buyer can argue that it never occurred to him that the court would make such a mistake, and thus he bought the property under false pretenses. So this is what makes, in a regular sale, we say it's got to be above a sixth. But if it's a sixth, by case of a Beis Din selling, number one, if let's say they undervalued it, then it's a loss to the orphans. That's a reason to say that the sale is going to be void. And if let's say they overcharged, which means it's a loss to the buyer was overcharged, the buyer can say, I never thought that a Beis Din would do this. I never thought the Beis Din would make such a mistake. And therefore, he says, it's a mekach tois. I did the sale under false pretenses. And therefore, we say here, by the judges, a sixth is also going to be enough to make the sale void. But what is implied is if it's less than a sixth, then it wouldn't be void. Now, the Mishnah continues. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, Mechron Kayim. Nope. Even if the Beis Din makes a mistake by a sixth, the sale stands. Why is that? Because if so, if you're going to say that the sale is void, ma'koyach bezdin yafa, what would the power of the court be worth? Meaning, if you go ahead and you annul the sale because of this kind of mistake, you're going to be weakening the position of the Beis Din in general. You have to make sure that we reinforce the authority of the Beis Din, of the court, and therefore, by such a mistake, but as mentioned before, by a sixth, the halacha is according to Rabbi Gamliel that the sale is final. It's not going to be undone. However, as they bring down here in the notes from the Tosfos Yontif, however, if the court sold it for less than half its value, or more than twice its value, we're talking about a much bigger mistake now, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel agrees that the sale is void. So it's not like Shimon Gamliel says that Beis Din's power goes so far, and any mistake is going to stand. If it's a mistake of a sixth, it's going to stand, unlike the first opinion. If it goes as far as a half or double, then even Shimon Gamliel agrees that the sale is going to be void. Now, Mishnah continues. Aval, however, im asu igeres bikaris. If, let's say, they made igeres bikaris, what it means, a letter of inspection. What that means is, instead of the Beis Din evaluating, they're putting it up for auction. And therefore, that means they make a letter, they tell people, you have this and this time to inspect the field, and then, you make your offer. It's an auction of sorts. If that is what they did, which means Beis Din did not do the evaluation. The evaluation is done by the people. They look at the field, there's an auction, they make a sale, and that's what it goes for. That's how it works. It's now really up. The Beis Din is basically putting in the hands of the people to establish the value of the field. So in that case, but if they made this letter inspection, which means they released a document that announced that the property is ready to be inspected by the public and sold to the highest bidder, okay, that's what it means. So then we say like this: even if they sold something worth a mana for 200. That means they sell for double the price. Or let's say something worth 200, they only got 100 for it, which means it was cut in half. Mechrin Kayim, the sale stands because it's not Beis Din doing it. It's up for auction. It's up to the people, and whatever happens, it's up to the people. It's up to the buyers, and in that situation, whatever happens stands. So we have a situation. So in this case, everybody agrees. Everybody agrees that even if you'll land up losing less than half the price, or you'll lose half the price, or you'll actually double the price, that's not going to make a difference in this kind of case. In this kind of case, we say, according to everyone, that the sale stands because, again, it's not the Beis Din that went ahead and made the price too high or too low. It was up for public auction, and that's how people dealt with it. However, even over here, they say that here too, they bring that again from the Tosfos Yontif, that if it was sold for less than half or more than twice its value, the sale is void. Even by auction, right? If it comes at the end, it got even less than half its value, or it got brought in more than double, that's already too much. That's already too much. Then already we say, even if it's a public auction, the sale is void, and it's got to be dealt with again. Now, what's interesting is here, just the last thing that they mention here in the notes. So we have here is the first half of the Mishnah was that Beis Din did the evaluation. They evaluated and they sold. And that's when we say you have this argument, depending on how much they messed up on, that'll make a difference if the sale is void or not. And then we had a case, but if they did a public auction, then it's a different ballgame. So why wouldn't they always do a public auction? Why would Beis Din do the evaluation, right, when it's much easier to go ahead and do the public auction? The answer is because the public auction takes time. And this woman may need support, right? They're selling the land for her support. She needs support. And therefore, they go ahead and deal with it themselves. Okay, if they do it themselves, then things can get messed. Then we have the situation. Then we have what we have in the first half of the Mishnah. But if they have the time to go ahead and sell, then the public auction would be the best way to go, at least for Bezdin's sake. Okay, have a wonderful day.
If I advertise and